Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this session called From Screen to Action. I am Agathe. I'm the Film for Change program lead because here at ChangeNOW, we really do believe in the power of cinema. We believe in the power of cinema to change our collective imagination, to maybe bring out narratives that change our perception for the better. Today, we're gathering more than 250 audiovisual professionals, producers, writers, broadcasters, to come and get inspired by all of those shaping tomorrow that are present at ChangeNOW. And we hope that they will leave wanting to carry those messages of hope in their movies. Maybe representing brighter futures on screen to help putting people into action. Showing what the future can be other than the maybe dystopian futures that we see usually in movies and see a more brighter future. Also maybe shifting our perception on what happiness is, changing our relationship to the living world. And today, we're going to talk about this with some producers and directors that have already embarked on that journey. And with a person then that brings together all the cinema professionals in France in that collective movement. I'm going to start with a director that has already made the invisible visible with Chasing Ice, which is a documentary about the retreat of glaciers that is really making us see and feel the retreats of glaciers. He won an Emmy Award for that documentary and the Audience Award at the Sundance Film Festival. He also shed light on some issues that are really hard to expose to the general public by revealing power structures, systemic corruption, and silence mechanism with the social dilemma derrière nos écrans de fumée for the French-speaking people. It's a groundbreaking exploration of social media unseen influence on society. Through his films, Jeff uncovers hidden forces shaping our world, whether environmental, technological, or societal. He invites audiences to see, understand, and act. Welcome, Jeff Orlowski on stage. Hi, Jeff.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here with us today. We're really happy to have you for this Film for Change Day. So you often say that cinema can reveal what is invisible. With films like Chasing Ice, The Social Dilemma, what is it that only storytelling, and especially cinema, can make us feel or understand that facts alone cannot?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I love this idea that film can make the invisible visible, that we get to use photography and cinematography and the power of these images and the power of this medium to show audiences things that are very difficult to see or impossible to see in many cases. For some of the films that we've worked on, Chasing Ice, we did time lapses of glaciers from all around the world. We actually just came out with a short film, Chasing Time, a sequel to that film. And that movie shows 15 years of time lapses of glaciers from all around the world. Literally, without the cameras, without that technology, we wouldn't be able to see that at all. To be able to witness firsthand what it looks like to watch a glacier over 15 years. So the power of film, for me, it's the most magical medium. We get, as filmmakers, we get to work with both the mind and the heart. We can share information, but then we can make it emotional and evocative, and hopefully we can use our skills as storytellers to make something that resonates with an audience beyond a lecture, beyond a chart or a graph, but to tell human stories and emotional stories that speak to audiences. Honestly, I love the medium so much. It's such a powerful medium, and I think once I fell in love with film, it really became clear to me that's how I wanted to use my time.
What was your background, actually? What was the incentive that made you want to become a film director?
I grew up with a darkroom in my house. My dad taught me photography with black and white film when I was in junior high school and high school. And I always wanted to be a National Geographic photographer, traveling the world and taking photos and being able to capture that. And it was in college when I started making films with friends. And I got to see kind of the collaborative effort and what an entire group of people can do together in working to tell a unified story. And the first film, the one that I mentioned, Chasing Ice, it was following a National Geographic photographer, James Baylog, as he went out on these global adventures. And I felt like I was living my dream life fresh out of college. And it took a while to convince James that we should turn his project into a movie. And we spent about 5 years working on that film, Chasing Ice. And it's really hard to make a movie if you've never made a movie before. These are really, really big projects. And when that film finally came out, when it premiered at Sundance, when it was recognized, I think for me that was a turning point for me around seeing just the power and the potential of the medium. And feeling the audience response and being able to spend your time making something and having a shared conversation with an audience about something that you were able to go and study and learn and collect. I sort of feel like every movie is like a PhD in a different subject. Like we get to go into a different world, study it deeply, we become experts, we travel, we meet the people. One of the beautiful things too is you get to meet some of the best minds in the world who are working on that subject. And so you go and you study it, and then we try to make something that will resonate with audiences, and then 5 years later you have a movie.
And so after Chasing Ice, you did the social dilemma. So what was for you the starting point?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah, we did our films Chasing Ice, and then we made a film Chasing Coral, and both of them were on climate change. They were both trying to reveal the invisible of our changing planet. And we were talking with some friends in Silicon Valley and in the tech community, and they started to tell us that social media was a climate change of culture, invisibly shaping the world that we live in, changing the background state of our world in ways that we didn't even understand and couldn't even predict. And it was those insiders in Silicon Valley who tipped us onto that story in 2017. And we started exploring it. And where we are now, I mean, the social media story is just the beginning of the AI story. And it is a story around how we have been building technology in misalignment with humanity in many ways. How can the technology serve us versus is it serving some other goal and objective? And so we went into the social dilemma. We spent a couple of years diving really deep into that film. And one of the things, for those of you who haven't seen the film, we really wanted that movie to be a blend of the insider experts talking about it, sort of getting that understanding that speaks to the mind, but then also creating a story that speaks to the heart, an emotional story. And we crafted a narrative segment in the film to make it feel visceral, to make it feel understandable and relatable to the average person, beyond just the expert testimony.
Yeah, that's actually how I felt watching that movie, and that made me want to quiet down on social media. So I think it had the effect that you wanted to give to the people watching it, but I think it also had another effect. You were telling me the social dilemma by also starting changes in the law maybe, and there's a recent lawsuit with Meta and YouTube that was started by watching that movie.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story a bit? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Within the documentary film world, there are a lot of filmmakers who work on impact campaigns. And so this is a growing field. It's something that a lot of American filmmakers spend a lot of time on, where you make your movie and then what happens? What do you do with the film? What is the impact that you can have with the film after the film comes out? And that's something that our team has been working on for years with all of our movies, is to take the film, and that's only like when you're finished making the movie, it's almost the halfway point, and that you have the life of the film to support and to go out with. So for the social dilemma, it came out during COVID, and we did countless Zoom conversations when the film came out. But sort of in the post-COVID time, we did events with the attorneys general in the United States. Our team is based in Colorado, and our Attorney General, Phil Weiser, did an event where he gathered a lot of attorneys general in the state to have a real conversation about what is technology doing and what power and responsibility do the attorneys general have in playing a role politically. That was a few years ago. And if you've been tracking the news recently, just in the last couple of weeks, there have been these huge lawsuits against Facebook and YouTube, against Meta and YouTube, that were being led in many ways through the Attorney's General office. And so it's wild to think like we're not trying to take credit for the lawsuits, but this was a kind of a seed that was planted a few years ago in that group of people that they have a responsibility and power to take on. And here we are with these lawsuits all the years later. I think one of the beautiful things, like when you make a piece of art, you don't necessarily know where it's going to go out into the world. You're planting these seeds and you don't know where the wind will take it. And so our hope as filmmakers is not only to make the movies, but to sort of be that message and to amplify that message so it can get out there and spread.
Yeah, we are each other maybe also a result of seeds being planted by other filmmakers. For me, it was
Exactly, our
Miyazaki
influences.
when I was a kid watching them that made me want to start working on the impact of film.
I remember the first time I saw Baraka. I was like going to college and I saw this film Baraka, and it blew my mind of what you could do with film and cinema. I remember viscerally like going to my parents and my family afterwards and just being like, I was just like dumbfounded by the movie of what you could do with cinema. And so I think those are the things like, I think we all have transformative movies or books that we've been exposed to, but can you really think of a transformative tweet? Has a tweet changed your life? Has a piece of social media changed your life? I think there's something that comes through the depth of a book or a movie, something that has long form embedded in it, something that is forcing you to think and to feel deeply, that we get through this medium. And for me, film, it's hard for people to read books nowadays.
Yes.
For me, there was a period where I couldn't even pick up a book and get through it. I had to like get off of social media completely and rebuild my muscle to be able to process and retain a book. I feel like films are still one of those mediums that we still have the mental bandwidth for. And so being able to leverage that medium for stories, for me, it's a really powerful tool.
Also because now social media and mainstream media are trying to, like with algorithms, they're not making us see only what we want to see, and maybe with movies, you get like those people that you touch, like the attorneys general and the people watching The Social Dilemma, maybe like it's not the audience that you would usually reach. So I think that's also really interesting to have. What do you think then, if a movie can change how we see the world, what makes the difference between a movie that just is making us just being moved and a movie that is putting us into action?
That's a great question. And I think it's one that every filmmaker wrestles with.
Yeah.
Around how do you get an audience to feel something, and then do you want them to take action or not? And it can be tricky in filmmaking as well, because if you start to put calls to action in the movie, it can start feeling like propaganda sometimes. For some films, I mean, the Inconvenient Truth was criticized for that as well, around like suggesting what people do at the end of the film. I think for me personally, I had the good fortune of being friends with Jane Goodall for much of my life, and she was a dear mentor and friend. And I think one of the things that I always learned from Jane and took away from Jane was that we protect what we love. And how do we get people to care about our Mother Earth? How do we get people to care about the planet? How do we get people to care about things that are out of sight and out of mind? And I think at the core, that's what film can do. Film can transport us to a different place, and film can make us feel something that we don't have normal access to. And if a movie can do that emotionally, if a movie can give you insights into a different perspective or a different way of being, we understand with our mind, but we can feel with our heart, and we can feel that story emotionally. And if we care about it, if we love it, then we want to protect it. And I think that's the foundation for being able to take action, for wanting to take action. And then it really is like, what is the campaign, or what's left with the audience after that handoff has been made? It's like the filmmakers did their part in many ways to try to bring this story to light. And then afterwards, it's being passed off to the public, and the public can run with it or not. So I think for myself, it really is a hope that we're making work that does inspire action. And that's really what all of this is for, that we believe that a better world is possible, and that we want that and we desire that. And here's a little bit of wind in that sail.
Yeah, and when you talk about time, I think it's also, with a movie, you can take the time. You were telling me about the time to define a problem. that maybe now social media and mainstream media don't take the time, like the articles are like 2 minutes read. They even tell you how long it's going to take you to read in the journalism articles, and with the movies you can really take the time to define the problem, show all the aspects of the issue. So.
There was this Einstein quote that I'm just going to paraphrase, but if he was given an hour to solve a problem, he would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and then 5 minutes taking action. And what I love about that is, like, if we really truly understand a problem, the solutions are very obvious and easy. And that's always resonated with me. When we were trying to make our films, we're trying to distill down to, like, what actually is the core problem here? What's the essence of what we're trying to talk about? And if we understand it truly, the solutions become easy. And so I think that's something that, like, how do we collectively define our problems better and collectively come up with our solutions?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I think with you, we've seen that cinema can really be a powerful tool to shed light on hidden issues, making the invisible visible, and they can bring changes on the short term and on the long term. So thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.
We're going to go to the second part of the conference.